Welcome everybody to Cowboys, Trailers, and Ranches. I'm Jimbo, and once again, it's going to be another special episode. We're still in Cheyenne. We're at Cheyenne Frontier Days, and this is the Cheyenne Frontier Days Old West Museum. And I'm telling you, it's something to see. So get ready to have some fun. Get ready to have some fun with this guy. My special guest and co-host today is the one and only Western sports announcer, Mr. Skip Ransom.
Hey guys, how are you? Good to see you, Jim.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.
This is a cool place, man. It's a cool setup to be in here. And, Cheyenne has always been, one of those iconic rodeos.
Yes, sir.
It doesn't matter if you know rodeo or not. You come to Cheyenne and it's a show. We just watched the buck and horse get out on the track and the Cowboys hat whipping it, and so you come in this museum and you see Lane Frost behind us, you see Chris Ledoux behind us, and just to be here and to be highlighted on this podcast is special to me. So I appreciate you having me, man.
Oh, dude, I'm telling you, we've been talking about doing this for a minute.
Yeah. And
then I found out we were going to be out here. Skip's from Colorado, which is moving. He just told me today he's moving to Cheyenne next week. I'm like, why don't you don't jack around?
Yeah, we made a little decision last week that we rodeo full time, and it just made sense to be close to her parents. They're getting older, so we decided to come up here and spend some time up here with their parents and park the camper for a little while in Cheyenne and hopefully get out of here before winter time. But if not,
but you know the winters. You already know the winter situation.
Yeah, they can be rough in Cheyenne, that's for sure.
So, hey, when I got here the other day and I was trying to pick out the location for Skip and I to do this, I'm telling you, for one, the people in this organization at this museum have been absolutely wonderful. They have rolled out the red carpet for us, and I am going to give them a ton of love because they are wonderful people. And this, I repeat myself, guys, when I say this all the time, and I know you've heard me say this before.
Yeah.
If you ain't been, you got to go. This museum is, you remember when we had the North Dakota Hall of Fame here not too long ago, and I had said that was absolute pinnacle. Well, guess what? We just went up to one today because this museum is incredible.
Well, you're just, outside of the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame, you're not going to find, I don't think, a collection of world champions and rodeo people that have really, over the course of, decades and decades of rodeo, have made a mark here in Cheyenne.
100%.
Cheyenne since 1923 it's been a show.
Yep.
And now you get to come here and sit inside this building and really get to see.
Just feel the memories. Feel the memories, feel the heritage.
We're sitting in front of a bucking machine that Chris Ledoux,
which my idol right there behind us.
And so just to be here and to see it all, and it kind of, you see the rodeo, and then you come in here and you get to find out man, this place it's more historic than probably any other rodeo Hall of Fame I've ever been in. And
Couldn't agree with you more. Tom and I talked about it on another podcast, the CEO, about the greatest show on dirt.
Yeah.
Probably we talked about it just not too long ago. Maybe the greatest show on earth.
Look. There's.
And you're around them, dude, every day.
I've seen a horse buck. I've seen 1,000 of them buck. And you go to Pendleton and you go to Cheyenne and you go to Las Vegas or any far, and you go to Houston, you go to San Antonio, Fort Worth, and Denver. You go to all those big rodeos, and there is not one of them that ranks above Cheyenne. No, I'm not saying that because my mother-in-law and father-in-law live here. I'm saying that because coming to this rodeo for the last 5 or 6 years, we come short round Sunday every year. We sit up there right behind the buck and shoots.
Yep.
And just being able to come to this rodeo and you see it, Pendleton's got the grass.
Right.
But Cheyenne's got the cowboy. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You come here, it's a rodeo.
Absolutely.
And it's Western. It's fun to be
at. Absolutely. And I'm telling you, you just said it not too long ago. It's the people here. And it's all about the people, and it's all about relationships in this industry, like we talk about all the time. I'm telling you, the people here just embrace you. They open up their arms, they give you a big old hug, and then next thing you know, you're drinking a little Pendleton.
Well, I don't know if you know this or not, but the entire town of Cheyenne gets the day off.
Yeah,
one day.
It's
off.
Crazy. I know, crazy.
Paid to come to this rodeo. This is the centerpiece of Cheyenne. For 10 days or 11 days, I don't know how long it is. I think it's 11 days.
Yep.
But for that length of time, the entire county, the entire town of Cheyenne it's Cowboy Town.
Yes.
You know,
it is.
They say
it
it.
is.
They say at the NFR that Las Vegas is Cowboy Town. Got to come to Cheyenne one time in July and find out. You know what I mean? There's more cowboy hats in Cheyenne the end of July than anywhere else in the country.
And it's open, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's open, western skies. It's outdoors. It is. It's original. It's authentic. It's cowboy. NFR is awesome. I mean, we all love it. We all go to every year, right?
Yeah.
But it's indoors and it's smaller.
Yeah.
And it's got its place, obviously. But there's just something electric
Well, how many
and
rodeos,
endearing about
how many rodeos can you come to, Jimmy, where Josh Frost, not but 2 years ago, rode bulls in inch hail? You know what I mean? He rode a bucking bull in inch hail.
I
Was
forgot
beating
about
on him, you know?
I forgot about this.
You know, it's one of them rodeos where you're outside, you're in the elements. It's a huge arena. There's 15 to 20,000 people. I mean, if you come here and you're not fired up to be 90 points on something or be fast time, you better check your pulse because you know what I mean? Like, this rodeo is going to bring it out of you.
Check yourself.
And what I like about this rodeo too, like, you know, this part of the season, we've been to Calgary, right?
Yep.
We've been to all them big summer
All the big
rodeos.
ones.
California's going on right now. We got California Salinas going on. You go to those big rodeos, guys are sore.
True.
Guys' horses are sore.
It's a good point.
Barrel racing horses have been running all summer. They're sore. They've been running since January. Some of them have been running since late October when the season kicks off, right? So you come in here, and it really, from this point on until the NFR, this is really where guys either, and I'm going to say this, they either nut up or they shut up. You know, you gotta ride hurt, you gotta ride sore. When there's this much money on the line, and Pendleton's not but a month away or so,
Yeah, true.
you know, you've really got to kind of figure out if you're a cowboy or not when you come to Cheyenne, because Chad Berger brings the buckers. You know,
We saw some today.
Dakota Rodeo brings the bucking horses, you know, and the steers are big in the steer wrestling. You know, the calves, it's a weird score out there. The calves run hard. They run fast. It's a big open arena. They can fade on you. So you come here, you better have your hammer cocked because everything here is going to be firing. You know, so it's fun to be here. It's a good
sir.
time.
Yes,
It's
sir.
rodeo at its finest.
Well put.
For
Well
sure.
put. Well put. And we talked about it. I talked about it with Tom. I think, and we just talked about it because we just saw it. The coolest thing at this rodeo is the women bronc riders.
Oh,
and
man.
hats off to all the freaking all the cowgirls.
Salty.
Oh man, just getting it.
I mean, some of them bucking, like, and you put a 140-pound girl on a bucking horse, you know what I mean, in that arena, and they just go out there and they do the deal, and you're like, wow. You know what I mean?
I do. I'm impressed,
I
man.
wouldn't even let her have a pistol. I think I just let her whoop on you.
I'm impressed.
It's fun, and it's good that they do it. You know, I think in a day and age right now where the entire country is equality and women in sports and men, you know, wanting to compete in a sport where they're going to dominate because they can't dominate in their gender-specific sport. You come to Cheyenne, and Cheyenne says, hey, you want to ride a bucking horse? Fine. We'll put you on a bucking horse.
Let me show you some women.
Yeah, right.
Let me show you some women.
Right. You know, they're a little grittier up here in Cheyenne. You know, it's tough.
We made the comment sitting there watching, and we're like, ain't no way I want one of them women coming up against me.
No, sir.
Right?
I wouldn't.
No women tougher than you.
No, sir. I'm good. I'm good. I think them women are fine the way they are. If you're salty enough to get on a bronc in front of 15,000 people, then go on with yourself.
God, like I said, God bless them.
Yeah,
God bless them.
Amen.
Hey, so we made reference, and I want to make reference again. Right behind us is I know near and dear to him, but was my idol when I was in the rodeo business, and was the reason I got on bareback horses. And to see the bucking machine that Chris Ledoux used in concert sitting right behind us, and then his guitar right behind that. Yeah, cool. I mean, it's like he's right here with us, man. It's cool. It is so cool.
It's kind of eerie in a way, you know, like.
Well, that's when I walked in here the other day, and I'm like, man, that's where I want it. Yeah, that's where I want this backdrop, right? I mean,
well, and you know, you look at the two guys behind us, Chris Ledoux and Lane Frost. There's
Lane Frost is right here. Sorry, right to my
there's really there's no two guys I don't think in rodeo that are more well known, that were better representatives of the sport, who really went outside the arena and made a difference. You know, and as a former bull rider,
that's right.
I was born in '89. You know, the year that Lane Frost died, and you know, it's just it's weird to say, but you can kind of feel
Absolutely.
that history and that legacy in here. And
100%,
to be
dude.
sitting here by him is pretty cool.
So with you. So with you.
It's
on
pretty
that.
cool, man.
And I apologize because Lane is right here to my right, and obviously we don't need he doesn't need
introduced.
Yeah, so right, 2 icons right behind us, and it is, man. It's like they're right here with us, man.
Cool.
That's so cool. I'm glad you brought that.
Yeah, it's really cool, man. It's really fun.
Okay, so that was a hell of an introduction. So now
should we get to it? Or what?
we're gonna find out about Mr. Skip Ransom. And, dude, where'd you grow up? What's your background? Who is Skip Ransom?
Well, I'll tell you. Let me start with this. I'll start with this because a lot of people they have a little backup on this, right? So my paper name when I was born was Jeffrey Paul. Okay. Well, growing up, and I rodeoed with that name for a long time. And then in about 2014, I had an agent for a little while. And the agent suggested that I go with this moniker, this nickname that I'd given myself with a group of buddies of mine. We all had ridiculous names. We lived in a double wide when I was in the Army. And all of us were in the Army together.
Veteran, by the way. That's all. Thank you for your service.
You're welcome. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
And so we all came up with these stupid nicknames one night, and I ended up with Skip Ransom. And she was like, that I could sell that. Like, I could market that. And so I started to use that professionally in 2014, 15. And then in 2020, I made that a legal name change. So I changed my name legally to Skip Ransom.
Okay.
So I did that because this is going to sound super modern, but I identified with that name.
Oh, yeah, it does.
More so than I did with Jeffrey Paul.
It goes with you. I've known you for a year, and it goes. I mean, I wouldn't know you anybody else.
Right. And a lot of people don't, but a lot of people that do know that name, that name is associated with a guy that I no longer am.
Right on.
When I graduated high school, I rodeoed with Jeff Askey, who's been in the NFR 5 times, and he's always been that pretty, and he's always rode that good. And and a lot of people don't know, but Pennsylvania has a lot of bull riders there that are really handy. And so when I was growing up, I had this identity of a bull rider. And so in 2009 probably, I started to fall off in more than one way in life. I wasn't riding bulls very good. I didn't want to do it anymore. I'm going to call my dad out a little bit. Sorry, Dad. But he made it more like a job than it was fun. And it didn't matter if I won the rodeo or if I bucked off. It was never good enough. And so I just got to this point where I started eating myself up and started getting into some extracurricular activities that weren't very conducive to riding bulls. We'll say that. And
very well put, by the way.
And I started making life mistakes, as a young man at 19, and it caught up with me, and I got pulled over one night, and I had some things in my pickup that shouldn't have been there, and thankfully, by the grace of God, that that sheriff that night was generous enough to let me walk home,
right on,
and call my dad before I got there. I'm guessing to make sure I got there safe. Well, I was met with a buggy whip, and I got whipped. My dad said, "Look, I didn't raise you that way." He wasn't around a lot. Financially, he was there, but in person, not so much. And so I resented him for that. And then, doing drugs and just running with the wrong people just caused me to get caught up. Right. So I get caught up, and I called my mom. I left. So I had $400 maybe in my pocket, cash. And I left Pennsylvania and called my mom. I was about 3 hours away from her house. She lived in Parker, Colorado at the time, and I was in Lyman, Colorado, just on 70.
Yeah,
I called
right on 70.
And I said, "Hey, I'm on my way to your house." And she said, "Where are you?" And I said, "Oh, I'm about 3 hours away." And she said, "Okay, see you when you get here." And my mom's a great lady. I mean, she's the most graceful human I know outside of my wife, and she really is a godly woman. And so I showed up to her house, and I got out of the pickup, and Smoke rolled out with me, and she was like, "Okay,
That ain't going fare well."
No, so I'm sitting in her house, and I don't have anything. I don't have money to my name. The truck I'm driving is in my name and my grandfather's name. And my dad calls me. He's like, "Hey, I don't know where you're at. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm coming to get that pickup." I said, "Okay." It's not mine, really, And so he came, got the pickup. Fast forward about a month and a half, 2 months later, I meet this girl. She's how do you say she's a pretty good dancer, we'll say that.
Okay.
And so
God bless her for that.
Yeah. So I meet her, and she had some trouble in her past as well. So I think we connected over negativity. And I come home and I tell my mom, I'm like, "Hey, I'm going to join the Army." And she's like, "No, you're not. You're full of shit." And I said, "No, I swear I'm going to do it." So the very next Monday, I went down to the recruiting office and I said, "Hey," I need 30 days because I'm not going to pass the drug test. And the recruiter said, "Okay, you come back in 30 days. He said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to be in the infantry." And he said, "All right." So I go home, come back a month later, I take the ASVAB test, I do a drug test, I pass them both. And they're like, you don't want to be in the infantry." And I said, "Yes, I do." And looking back on it, I wanted to be in the infantry because we were still kind of in a wartime there. Mm-hmm. We still had some action in Iraq. Most of the action was Afghanistan at the time.
Right.
And I just felt like if I could just go over there and get, folded up, then it would be better. And so I come home, told my mom to join the Army, and she was like, "When do you leave?" And I said, 2 weeks. And she was like, "What? What are you going to do in the Army?" And I said, "I'm going to be an infantryman." And she was like, "What? No, you're not. Like, absolutely not. Like, you're going to go get killed." And I was like, "I know." And that was a pretty tough moment for my mom. And it was a tough moment for me because I kind of knew at that point in time that I needed an adult timeout. I needed to be sat down and I needed to correct myself. And so I went and joined the Army. I did a few years there in the Army. I didn't do anything cool or outstanding, but I was a good soldier. And I followed the rules somewhat. And I've always been pretty hard-headed, and I've always been pretty, do-it-your-own-way kind of guy. And so I did that. I got out of the Army. I met my wife shortly thereafter, Shelby, and I'm going to say this without getting emotional, but she saved my life.
Wow.
Wow. She didn't allow me to make excuses for behavior that I knew was wrong. Mm-hmm. And she set me up on a path, and she said, "Look, here's the deal. I know that you're wild, and I know that you're a cowboy, and I get it. My dad's a cowboy, and I get it. But here's the deal. I want to be your wife, so you need to start acting like a husband." And that flipped the switch in my head in 2015, April 2015, 4 months after I got out of the Army. I made a decision, and I said, "All right, well, you got it. Whatever you want, I'll do it." And so
good for you, man.
It made me kind of work harder and be more vigilant in what I was doing and focus and pay attention. And so I did all that. I got Casey Decker called me, and he said, "Hey, will you come announce an ABBI for me? Pays $100. I said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And growing up, I rode bulls.
So that was back. So that was bull riding, right? So
it was a bull competition.
Right.
Yes.
So that's where you got your announcing.
Yeah. Well, not
start
really.
was.
So in high school, I got hurt. I was the president of my high school rodeo association. And I broke my collarbone first bull out first year, first rodeo of the year rather, and so I was hurt. But as the student president, you have to be at every rodeo because you're the representative. So I had to go to every rodeo. One time we went to this rodeo and they didn't have an announcer, and the secretary goes, "Hey, Skip, can you you like to talk? Can you announce this rodeo?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll do it. Hell yeah!" And one of the guys that I looked up to at the time, I still look up to him now, usually did the rodeos, and so I was like, "Well, if he can do it, I probably can do it too," And So I emulated him a little bit, and I just loved it. I was like, man, this is wild. Being able
You
to
got bit.
yeah, being able to captivate a crowd and bring them in and hold their attention and help them understand what's happening in the arena
Right on.
from the perspective of being in the bucking chutes, and now I'm up here talking about what's happening down there. I just loved it, and I didn't realize growing up how much I'd paid attention to the announcers. I probably should have paid a little less attention and more attention to the bulls, but
That, you know what? It ended up being that's where you're supposed to be.
Well, and I'll get to that point is that a lot of times we don't understand really what God's doing in our life. We think we're drowning in trouble or whatever it is, and if we just get out of the boat and take His hand, you know what I mean. We
Get out
can
of our
walk
own
on-
way.
Yeah, we can walk on water.
Right on.
And so I did that. I just said, okay, this is your deal, and I'll do it. And so 2015, I announced that first deal, and I was working at Tractor Supply at the time up here in Cheyenne, and this is just a wild story. And I come home, and I told Shelby, I said, I think I want to be a rodeo announcer. And she was like, all right, how you going to do that? And I said, well, I'm going to email every rodeo company I can find on the internet. I'm going to send them an email. I'm going to tell them, hey, this is what I have done. This is what I can do. This is what I want to do.
Right on.
So I sent, I don't know, probably 60 emails. I don't know how, a bunch of them. And I got one response back. That one response was from the MBR, the Miniature Bull Riders affiliation of the PBR.
Really?
Yes, sir. And so growing up, I'd always watched Chris Shivers. We're kind of about the same height, same build.
Oh my gosh, there's a blast from the past.
Yeah.
Sure.
And, and I just remember like, man, I'm going to be just like that guy. And so I'm stocking shelves at Tractor Supply. My phone rings, and I answer the phone. And it's a Texas number I don't recognize. So I answer it, and I said, hey, it's Skip. And they said, what would you charge to come to Louisiana in 2 weeks? And I said, well, I don't know. I'll call my wife. I'll call you back. I called Shelby. I said, hey, what do you think it'd cost us to go to Louisiana for 3 days? And she said, I don't know. I said, all right, I'm going to call him back. I didn't tell her what it was for. I didn't tell her nothing. That's the only question I asked her. So I called him back, and I told him, I said it'd be $1,250 for 3 days. And they said, all right, done. They said it'd be this date at this place. And I said, okay.
Here we go.
Yeah, so we go.
Here we go.
So we roll up in there, and it's Chris Shivers' house.
Really?
My first ever really paid announcing deal
Was
at Chris Shivers' home. Okay, in
Chris Shivers back in the day, guys, was the deal.
Yeah.
If you follow bull riding, you know that name.
If you could put an M80 in a human body, he was that.
He was the man.
He was electric.
God, he could cover some bulls.
Fun to watch, and he's a world champion a couple times. I mean,
Yes,
just
sir.
a good guy, And anyhow, so I go down there and do the deal. Well, when we get down there, before we left, I said, well, I need sound. I don't have any sound. I don't have anything. So I went to a little pawn shop down here in Cheyenne, and I bought a $50 microphone and a little PV microphone and
Here we go.
wireless mic and, these two little 6-inch speakers. And we went out there and we did it. And they said, all right, you're good. And I said, well, I appreciate you saying that. And they said, can you do another one? And I said, yeah. And so that was 2016 or 17, something like that. And you fast forward to 2018, and they called me. And I did a bunch of little rodeos in between there. Some really good summer series. I got blessed to pick up about a 2-month run my first year. And after that, it kind of snowballed. But in 2018, they called and they said, hey, we'd like you to announce our World Finals. And I said,
It's a pretty big gig.
yeah. I said, oh, okay. They said it's going to be set up outside Arlington Stadium in AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. And on the inside of that building was the PBR World Finals. And right next to the mini board riding arena that was in the fan zone, and this might have been 19.
So this is pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID.
Right?
It had to have been 2018 because it was way pre-COVID.
Okay.
And so I show up in Arlington, Texas, and they tell me it's in the fan zone, and I go, okay. And I walk out there, and they have it set up exactly like the World Finals arena inside. And it blew my mind for a minute. And I was standing there, and right next to the arena was the Cooper Tires stage, where Flint Rasmussen and Matt West and Scott Grover and Clint Atkins all do their interviews, right? So while I'm announcing this mini bull riding, I've got the very best of the best in PBR listening to me talk. So prior to that event happening, we did an event in Lockney, Texas. It's going to be on Ride Pass. I've never done TV in my life before.
I remember that.
They say, do you mind being on TV? I said, yeah. So I show up, and Scott Grover's there. And I'm like, what is he doing here? Why'd they hire me if they got Scott Grover? They don't need me. And I walk in, and the guy from Ride Pass, I forget his name now, but he comes up to me, and he says, so you're the announcer? And I said,
did he look disappointed? Like,
yeah, a little
you're
bit.
the announcer.
A little bit. A little bit. He was a little bit like, oh boy. and I, you know, and I
come on, brother. I need some enthusiasm.
Yeah, like I presented well. You know, like I'm always pressed and starched, and I believe a man should be that way.
Absolutely.
You should present yourself well. But anyway, so he shakes my hand. He's like, all right. I said, I'm gonna treat this just like a job interview, just so you know. I said, when that mic turns on, this is game time for me. And he goes, we'll see. And so I go over to Scott, and I talk to him, and he introduced himself. And, you know, Scott's a great guy. He's been a great mentor to me.
Right
but he's a little cold-shouldered at first. If you don't know the announcing game, there's a lot of guys with a fork, and there's a very small piece of pie. And so it's very competitive.
And you wouldn't think that.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, you really wouldn't think that if you stop and think about it.
Yeah.
You don't think that there's that many.
Well, there is that many.
There has to be, obviously.
The trouble is that I had a goal in mind.
Yeah.
And my goal is to be the best.
Right.
And I believe that I'm one of the best announcers in the world, and I've said that on a few podcasts, and I've gotten some.
I'm gonna raise my hand on that one because I'm gonna tell you what I think after you get done.
I appreciate you telling me that, and so I get there and talk to Scott, and he's like, "Look, you know this more than I do." He's like, "I know bull riding, but you know these guys,
right?
And you know these bulls. You've been talking about them for the last 2 years." And so we sit down, and the guy comes over from Ride Pass. He comes over, and they're getting me all mic'd up, and they're putting an earpiece in me. And he goes, "Look, if you're not good, we're going to pull you off this TV." And I said, "You don't have to worry about that." And so we get in there. We're talking.
Don't you love the confidence?
We're in there. Look, man, I'm 5'6". I weigh 145 pounds. Like, I'm a Chihuahua.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a very big guy. I'm not intimidating. You know, Scott Grover's like 6'4".
What do they call that? Little man syndrome?
I think it might be Napoleon syndrome.
I just jacking with you, dude.
You know, but I've always been that way. I've always been aggressive in what I've done. I've always been, you know, like I say, I've always been one to hit my head and then realize that wasn't a little harder than I wanted it to be. But I'll figure out a way through it. And so we're sitting there, we're talking, we're going through the broadcast. He brings me on, you know, and I'm clean shaven, you know, and no sponsors on my shirt, no nothing. And he asked a question. He brings us into the broadcast. He asked me a question. And I answered the question without missing a beat. You know, we went on through it like it was nothing. We sit down and do the deal. Well, then after the event's over, Scott pulls me aside and he goes, "Hey, I got to be honest with you. I didn't expect you to be very good." He said, "But I'm going to tell you this." He said, "You're the real deal."
Right on.
He's like, "You get it. You don't talk over people. You understand when the conversation's happening. You know when to commentate. You know what you're talking about." And so that gave me a huge boost of confidence coming from a guy that I watched on TV announce, and I look up to him a bunch, and I'm like, all right, well, if Scott Grover thinks I'm good, then I think I can do this, you know. And so from that point forward, I really just put a lot of emphasis on how do I become the very best? How do I get to be the best? My voice is my voice, you know what I mean? And I don't try to sound like Boyd or Bob or Wayne or any of them guys. I think if you're going to be a rodeo announcer, you should be original, and I think that's what people like.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more.
And so I get into this announcing. I'm doing these MBRs, you know, and I was fortunate enough to do 2 World Finals for him. And I meet Matt West, and Matt has been you will not meet a guy that wants more for you than Matt West. He does not have that famine mentality. he believes that he knows in his heart that God placed on his heart to be a rodeo announcer, a bull riding announcer, and he's the best in the business. In my opinion, there's nobody better than that on a microphone. He's got a great voice. He's very smart what he's talking about, and he just kind of became a friend and a mentor. To me. And so from that, I've been fortunate enough now to do 2 team penning world finals. Well, I'm doing my second one this year, so 2 team penning world finals, 2 NBR world finals. I'm getting ready to go to Mesquite, Texas in October and do the mini world finals down there for the mini bull riding, the WCMB.
Good for you, man.
And so in my short career, I've had a lot of really kind of
big things.
Some monuments I can hang on to.
Serious.
And so last summer, I'm in Decatur, Texas. I'm working at Outlaw Equine as a vet tech, trying to figure out if that's what I want to do with my life and be a rodeo announcer here and there. And I get a phone call from Chad Drury. Now, if you don't know Chad Drury, you know Shane Drury. Been in the NFR. He passed away of cancer. And so Chad's his older brother. So Chad calls me and says, hey, what would you charge me to come announce some PBR Challenger events? And I dropped my phone. Like I could not believe that I was being asked to announce some PBRs. And I said, well, I don't know. Never done one.
Here we go.
So Chad tells me what he can pay me and says, look, you got to get your card and this is what you got to do. And I said, all right. So I did. I got my card and we went out there and I show up and Cord McCoy's there. Ross Coleman's there. Cody Custer's there.
Big hitters. Oh, Cody Custer back in the day.
Roy Doyle's there. I mean, I'm talking about guys I watched on TV.
Right, exactly.
I was like, I don't get starstruck very often, but I was like, whoa, where am I at? And then they had all these 3 and 4-year-old bulls that were just like outstanding athletes that I had been watching, kind of looking up and stuff. And I was like, man, I'm underprepared for this event. I don't know enough about what I need to know. And so after the deal's over, Chad comes up and he's like, you did a great job. And I said, I appreciate that. He said, you're my guy. From now on, every event I do, you're doing it. So I appreciate you saying that. And so I said, just for me, how did you end up with me? Like, out of all the guys you could have called, why did you call me?